Karraker Show on Sports Hub STL featuring Brooke Grimsley. Hi, Brooke.
Hi.
How was your weekend?
Good. It was very good. How about yours?
It was outstanding. Thank you very much. Matthew Rocky was also here. And don't forget that Sports Hub STL is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. We're going to talk to our buddy Jeremy Rutherford of The Athletic coming up at the bottom of the hour. A huge weekend for your St. Louis Blues. Thursday and Sunday, outscoring the Winnipeg Jets, the President's Trophy winners, the MVP, Connor Hellebuyck. He allows a bunch of goals. Blues outscore Winnipeg 12-3.
Do you think that they've gotten into Connor Hellebuyck's head? Because I would say
no doubt.
Yes. And the chance, the crowd, incredible. I think that the home crowd did an amazing job. And home ice advantage is a real thing because the Blues have won 14 straight at Enterprise Center. But the way that the fans have really taken it up a notch at home during the playoffs, it is just insane in there. And then you had Patty Maroon out there on Sunday wearing the blue note, which was exciting to see, cheering the guys on. But the energy from the crowd is definitely translating on the ice.
I thought it was interesting. Yesterday, Darren Pang said it was the loudest he'd ever heard Enterprise Center.
Wow. So even with the 2019,
yeah. Isn't that wild?
That's crazy. I believe it, though. I mean, you could feel it through the TV and everybody's social media posts. It looked like it was just absolutely bananas, the color that you're wearing. The whole time. You can see that, right?
Yeah.
Because Randy is colorblind. So I can't remember what colors you can't see.
Here, it's my yellow Blues shirt.
It's very yellow. It's bright and sunny, just like how it is outside. Yeah. But to your point about Connor Hellebuyck, they have definitely broken him because if you look up recently here, he gave up 5 goals on 18 shots in game 4, 6 goals on 25 shots in game 3, and now he's given up 15 goals on 81 shots in this series for .817 save percentage. So the Blues have figured him out, and the adjustments that they have made along the way, you have to give I almost brought back Jordan Montgomery for a second.
J-Mon,
yeah, Montgomery, you have to give him a lot of credit for the way that he's been able to get this group back to what we saw during that Four Nations break. It seems like they've gotten back to that identity that works so well for them.
Unbelievable. Brooke, it's interesting. When we started this show in February, we were talking about, okay, what are the Blues going to do in the draft? You know, what do they need in free agency? Do they go out and spend big money? What do they do? And now, and I was thinking, okay, Snuggerud gets here at the end of the year, and then he has to develop for 25, 26. Maybe we have a shot in 25, 26, 27. I said at the beginning of the playoffs, I thought the Blues were capable of beating anybody 4 out of 7. I still believe that. And man, has there ever been? Well, yes, there has been, because the Blues did hire Craig Berube during the season. But this is such an impactful move by the Blues to get Jim Montgomery on a 5-year contract.
I know. Well, if you talk about all the moves, you had the aggressive offer sheets going into the season, and you didn't know exactly how those guys were going to pan out. You were just hopeful because I think we were all bought into the rebuild, retool, working on this younger core where I wasn't expecting much with Holloway and Broberg. I was like, if they elevate to maybe Holloway top 6 role this season, that'd be great. But the expectations weren't there. And I remember even talking to Dylan Holloway before the season started. And I said, what did Doug Armstrong say to you specifically? And he said, there was no pressure. It was just more focusing on myself, my growth. There was nothing about him being a top 6 forward, or they expected him to jump into those roles. You could tell that they made sure that he would just have the ability to grow. And then bring in Jim Montgomery was huge. I think it's Drew Bannister. I'm so sorry that you're having to watch this happen, but it was a great move doing that. And Cam Fowler.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry about that. Cam Fowler, getting him, I thought that wasn't going to be much of anything, but that has turned into a huge trade for the Blues. I mean, look at what he's done during these 2 games that we've seen at home.
He's the second leading scorer in the NHL during the playoffs.
It's nuts.
Brooke, even on the day they made that trade, that Saturday, when Army talked to the media, when asked why the trade was made, he essentially said, well, we feel like Suter is playing too many minutes and we want to cut down on the number of minutes that Suter's playing. He didn't say anything about Fowler being great or a key for the Blues or being a star quality defenseman or a great 2-way guy or a top pairing guy. He said, we just want to cut down on the minutes that Suter's playing. That's what I thought they were getting, was a depth guy.
Just a depth guy,
and
not much of anything. Yeah, you weren't expecting that whatsoever, that he would have turned on to what we see now. He has the experience, but I was not expecting this from Cam Fowler, and what a difference maker that he's been. A lot of guys stepping up. I even think about Jimmy Snuggerud and the way that he has stepped up and progressed every single game to the where he's been upgraded and promoted to that first power play unit, that top power play unit. And you see him making progressions every single game. And now you have, I think, a big difference. And I talked to Jamal Mayers about this last night, and you can go watch that on Blues Hub Weekly, that interview. But I brought this up. Right now, we're seeing the Blues have more secondary scoring than the Jets. For the Jets, it's just Schiefele and Connor, and they don't have much secondary scoring outside of that. For the Blues, it was Pavel Buchnevich, who was the story of Game 3. And then in Game 4, it was Jake Neighbors and Cam. I mean, there's guys who are stepping up and scoring, and it's not just Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou that you're relying on, your top guys on the team.
And we've mentioned Dylan Holloway. You're missing him. And really, Bolduc hasn't been offensively a stud. He'll probably have a huge Game 5. But you're so right about the secondary scoring and having a different hero every night. And that's a really important thing to have if you're going to win. Kind of like when the Blues won in 2019. It was a different hero every night. I mean, Sammy Blais was doing stuff. Sanford scored a goal. So there was a lot of stuff. I want to go back to Connor Hellebuyck for 1 second. What the Hellebuyck is going on here? So Brooke, in his last 13, let me read it for you. There is a 13-game thing here. But he has now allowed 4 or more goals in 9 of his last 11 playoff starts. 4 or more in 9 of his last 11 playoff starts dating back to 2023. In his last 13 playoff starts, 3 and 10 with a 4.53 goals against and an 863 save percentage. Ouch. And I think the Blues are in his head. I think they, even going back to Winnipeg, I think now they have to be in his head because Scott Arniel can talk all he wants about how there were deflections, and I know there was a goal that went off of Pionk, but there were 3 goals yesterday that he probably should have stopped.
Yeah, and then in Game 3, things definitely have imploded for him. Connor Hellebuyck is being pulled. The past 2 games definitely shows that the Blues have gotten in his head. On the other side of it, Jordan Binnington has been standing on his head. And Jordan Binnington, the way that he's able to just really play lights out whenever it's the playoffs. I mean, 2-0 record, if you look at these last 2 games, 940 save percentage. And he is just continuing to stand strong. And it does come down to goaltending a lot of the time.
Playoff time.
Yeah, playoff time it does. And Jordan Binnington during the playoffs is a whole different animal.
High Definition, we hope you feel better. High Definition, laying in bed trying to pass a kidney stone while listening to the show, and I'm betting Hellebuyck's ego is hurting more than me. That's a lot. Because we just can't make this comparison. By the way, Brooke is going to find out here in less than a month, but the one comparison we have is that trying to pass a kidney stone is the closest thing to having a baby.
I guess I've never had a kidney stone that I've had to pass, so I don't know. I won't have a way to compare, but I feel like childbirth is definitely up there. But man, I hope you get better High Definition. So we'll have to see. I can give that comparison of what that will be like.
Oh, thank you.
And then maybe I can figure out later on what a kidney stone is like to pass too.
Dallas M. Even if the Blues lose this series, this playoff run gives me a lot of hope for future seasons. Me too. And I think it was really good of Army and Monty to kind of deflate our expectations. And Monty said, hey, this experience, just like you said, is going to be great for these guys. Army said, hey, we don't expect to win a Stanley Cup. This team was not built to win a Stanley Cup. I think they kind of took some of the pressure off of the young group of players when the playoffs started. And now they're letting them be themselves. You mentioned that about Holloway, but I think the whole group is having so much fun. You watch a guy like Neighbors yesterday. He was having a great time, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
And by the way, do you think Jake Neighbors is future captain material?
I think so. I think that Jake Neighbors has that ability to be that. I'd be interested to see, though. I think that Robert Thomas is a guy that they've always wanted to take over that C role.
Publicly, they've said that.
Yeah. So I wonder how that exactly would work out. But I can see Jake Neighbors being a future C, and he lived with Braden Shen for a long time. I think that's another good step that the Blues have done when they're bringing in this young core is they've had a lot of these younger guys actually stay with Braden Shen. When Robert Thomas came up, he stayed with Braden Shen for a little bit before he went over the Kachucks. And then you had Jake Neighbors stay with Braden Shen for a little bit. And now you have Jimmy Snuggerud who stayed with Braden Shen for a little bit. There's a reason why that they've done that, because Braden Shen has been a great captain for this team, and you've seen how much he's helped them down the stretch here. Hellebuyck, I think a lot of people are questioning, and especially the Canadian media, if he will be pulled for the next game or not pulled, or if he'll be the guy, the odd man out. I talked to Jamal about that last night, and he's saying They can't do that.
I don't think they can.
I don't think they can, because the defense does have to play better
Mhm.
in front of him too. That's another portion of this, is that the defense does have to play better in front of him, block some more shots. You're seeing the Blues actually block shots.
Yep.
And I think that they have to do that more on the other side.
But there are some guys that just can't play in the playoffs. We've had a guy here. Roman Turek was fabulous. Let me go back and double check this. Roman
Regular
Turek,
season superstar.
yeah, I think he had a 1.65 in the 99-2000 season where the Blues won the President's Trophy. And then he just melted down in the playoffs. And then the same thing happened again the next year. And some guys just, they don't have the ability to, when the lights are brightest, they don't have the ability to step up and be great. And I would assume, based on the body of evidence that we're seeing from Connor Hellebuyck, that he's one of those guys. So 99-2000, Turek has a 1.95. He goes 42, 15, and 9 in the regular season with a 1.95 and a 912 save percentage. Then he gets to the playoffs and absolutely melted down. He won the Jennings Trophy, by the way.
Mhm.
But he just could not perform come playoff time.
Yeah. And I mean, he's a Vezina finalist here, his third.
Yeah, that 2000, by the way, in the playoffs, 882 save percentage, 2.75 goals against, and he went 3-4.
I saw Hockey Dad Don say earlier on the chat that he's like Clayton Kershaw. There's some people who are regular season superstars, help your team and get to that point of the playoffs, but then once playoffs come, they can't handle the lights that are a lot brighter.
What was the text when you were talking about somebody choking the other night? I want to do this because I actually did send a Clayton Kershaw choke.
You did?
GIF or GIF, whatever you want to call it. Remember? I don't remember who you were talking about choking. But yeah, Clayton Kershaw has had a tendency to choke.
Was it Fernandez? No. If we were talking about, I'm trying to think about recently. Could have been.
So anyway, it was fun.
Yes.
I always like to pick on athletes that, and you know what? I'm glad Clayton Kershaw got a World Series ring too. There are people that think that, granted, he had messed up a lot before he got to 2017. But our old friend Ned Colletti, who was the general manager of the Dodgers, the Doyers, said that he believes that Kershaw would have gotten the World Series in 2017 if the Astros wouldn't have cheated.
Ooh, that's always a sore subject.
Yeah. They did.
Ellipsis 150 says, we know that Hellebuyck got pulled in both games, but I heard on NHL Network that after getting pulled, Hellebuyck went back into the locker room and did not join his teammates on the bench.
And Darren Pang said, if it was me, I would have been on the bench.
Yeah, you should be on the bench. And maybe that's some stuff that's festering behind the scenes when we're talking about the guys in front of him also have to do their part to help him out.
Yes.
And maybe that's some tension forming behind the scenes, which would be great for the Blues.
Yeah, we need more of that.
Yes.
So we'll talk more about this at the bottom of the hour with our buddy Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic. We do want to touch on the Cardinals, who open a 4-game series in Cincinnati. Just a 4-game road trip against the Reds tonight. Palante against Nick Martinez. The Reds are in second place in the division. I'm a big fan of Tito Francona. I think that the Reds are going to be good, and I think they'll get better and better because I've seen him manage teams that have gotten better and better during the course of the season. But the Cardinals continue to do what they need to do at home. You win 2 out of 3 at home. Now you got to get to a point where you're playing 500 on the road. But if you do win 2 out of 3 at home and play like the Cardinals have, and right now the Cardinals 10-5 at home, but just 2-11 on the road. If you can get to 500 on the road and 2 out of 3 at home, you're going to win your division.
You just have to go get some wins on the road.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. It was a quick homestand. Of course, that one to close out the series, though, was just an absolute clunker for the Cardinals. Eric Fetty not doing great on the mound. You saw in that one. He has had some quality starts this season, but walking guys has been an issue for him. He gave up 7 earned runs on 10 hits. 5 2/3 is all that he lasted out there. That's a big concern. And to me, Randy, we discussed this before the season started about guys that maybe they should have at least kicked the tires on moving. Eric Fetty's in that conversation because you need to try to get the most value you can out of this guy. And his contract is so appealing to be able to move. He's not a part of the long-term plan for the Cardinals.
Exactly.
Why not move him before the season started?
And I think it's hard because teams just don't like to make trades generally. That's the old thing is, well, nobody gets traded before the trade deadline or 2 weeks before. But Brooke, if you have a starting pitcher that has done what he has done over the last 6 months plus 7 months of Major League Baseball, there has to be somebody out there that would take him on. And even if you're the Cardinals, even if you just want to dump the $7.5 million, which I don't think they want to do, there will be somebody out there. But I would think that you could get a prospect for him. I would hope you could get a prospect for him.
I feel like you would be able to get something out of it. And you could have gotten something before the season started, too, of trying to move him even before spring training started, because you knew he's not a part of the long-term plans. And maybe they weren't thinking Matthew Liberatore would actually do what he's doing as a starter this season. Maybe they didn't think that that was going to be a part of the equation. Maybe they didn't think that Steven Matz would be still healthy at this point, where you need him in the bullpen, but now you've already promised him to be a part of the starting rotation. And reportedly, they're going back to that with the 6-man rotation and having Steven Matz be a part of that equation. I just think that Eric Fetty, and nothing against Eric Fetty, it just doesn't seem to fit the puzzle piece that they have going on for the season, where they're saying that they're trying to give these guys a chance, but then you have this guy that's sticking around that I assume is somebody that you're wanting to move on from at a certain point. At
some point, you have to. And oh, by the way, reports out there that both the Phillies and the Diamondbacks are interested in the services of Ryan Helsley. Now, talk about moving a guy like Fetty, where the return isn't going to be awesome. I think that if you trade Helsley now, I think, and by the way, the Philly bullpen has been horrific, and the Diamondbacks aren't getting what they expected out of their bullpen. And both of those franchises have some young, interesting pitchers to move. If I'm Mo, again, I'm going to go to Heim and say, okay, what do you want for Helsley? Because obviously Heim is going to have to be the guy that deals with the return on those players. I would move Ryan Helsley tomorrow if they could get something for him.
Do you think that he would have had more value before the season started?
Yeah, I don't understand why they didn't.
Well, I don't know.
With the approach that they were obviously taking, I don't know why they wouldn't do it. And by the way,
well, and then we're seeing how he's being used this season, which I know that that's been a topic of discussion, is how Ollie's using him and not using him as much. It feels like they're definitely making sure that they don't burn him so they can move him at the trade deadline. So if that was the plan all along, why didn't you just move him prior to the season?
It makes no sense. A lot of things make no sense. For example, if you watch this very show every day, you would have heard me say, they should send Saggese down because he's just not going to get any at-bats up here. Sure, you can send Siani down, but why have Thomas Saggese be in a spot where he's only going to get 4 or 5 at-bats a week at most? Well, the Cardinals sent Siani down anyway, and they kept Saggese up here so that he could get 4 or 5 at-bats in a week. Now what? Oh, let's send Saggese out because he's not getting enough at-bats here, and we want to see him hit. So they're going to bring up Jose Barrero.
Against his former team.
Yes. Yeah, that's right, the Reds. And Thomas Saggese is going down to Memphis.
It is really confusing, Randy, but I will say, is Thomas Saggese part of the future? Yes. I think we've answered that question during his time here. He has done a great job when he has been up here. And even with the limited at-bats and appearances that he's been able to get, he still has been able to capitalize. I like what I see in Thomas Saggese. So we did answer the question of, is Thomas Saggese about the future? Yes. Have we been able to answer the question about if Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman are the future? No. And some of those other younger players. So I do understand at this point, at first, I was against sending Thomas Saggese down, but now that I understand and just kind of think about this, we still need to evaluate some of these other guys. And this season's not about winning, is it?
It is not. It's about evaluation.
Yeah. And so Thomas Saggese, could he help you with winning? Yes. But is this what this season is about?
Not having him up here, no.
Yeah.
Okay, Brooke, question for you. Have you reached the point that you are afraid of the Cardinals having Jordan Walker turn out good for somebody else? Are you afraid of that still?
Yeah.
I am too, but I'm getting to that point now. You've got a 547 OPS. Granted, it's only 101 plate appearances, but it's just not looking great.
It's not. It looks like he's gotten back to some of his old bad habits, doesn't it, at the plate?
What? Now, I'm not here. They have to go through the season with the guy. But if this is the way it's going to be, I mean, can you carry a guy on your team and take him into next year if he does hit 204 with a 547 OPS?
You do have to have some right-handed power. And that's what they were hoping Jordan Walker would evolve into, and maybe even with this different Brant Brown approach. Now, I don't want to send him down. That when we were just talking about Thomas Saggese, I understand Thomas Saggese, he's performed well at the plate, and you know that he's a part of the future. That answers that question. But this is another reason why I'm fine with sending Thomas Saggese down, because you have to figure out what's going on with Jordan Walker, with Nolan Gorman, with some of these younger guys, and give them as much opportunity as possible. I want to see a whole season through of this with Jordan Walker.
And let me throw another possibility out there. And I know this would not be popular among the populace who wants to see the Cardinals try to win every game in 2025. But if we are talking about development, how about this? Cardinals have an outstanding roving minor league outfield instructor. You know him well. His name is Bernard Gilkey. How about sending Ivan Herrera down to learn how to play the outfield under Bernard Gilkey?
Do you think they should go ahead and start that with Ivan Herrera?
You need to get that right-handed bat in the lineup sometime. He's never going to be the regular catcher.
So you're fine with Pedro Pages and Pozo. I said Pozo. Pozo moving forward as your catchers.
Brooke,
and then Jimmy Crooks on the way.
You do not win World Series with terrible defensive catchers. You do not. It doesn't happen.
It seems like, and by the way, Ivan Herrera, just an update on him health-wise. He will stay in St. Louis to continue his running program with hopes of being beginning a minor league rehab assignment on Thursday. And I mean, his bat, despite him missing almost 20 games at this point, correct? Herrera is tied for the team lead in home runs with 4.
And that's why I want to get, because I don't think he's going to catch. I don't think he's going to play first base. I don't think they can catch him. I think that's one thing we've seen enough. His arm is not going to be good enough so that you can prevent other teams from stealing a million bases on him. So I think you need to turn him into an outfielder. And I would get him going in the outfield, especially so I can protect myself against the idea of Walker not working out. And then if Walker doesn't work out, you can put Newbar in right and Herrera in left.
I just think optics-wise, I can't see the Cardinals going ahead and doing this right now at this point of the season, because they've already committed him to being the other catcher along with Pages. And you move Wilson Contreras over to first base. Like, what does that signal as an organization if they start doing that right now with Herrera?
I think what you need to do, if you are really dead set on advancing for trying to win in the future, you have to say to yourself, you have to ask yourself, okay, 2 years down the road, I've got my young starting pitchers in place, and I've got the rest of my lineup in place. Am I going to be able to win a World Series with Herrera's defense behind the plate? I don't think you can. Because I think if Herrera was catching this week against the Reds, I think L.A. De La Cruz would probably steal 8 bases in the 4 games.
I think they honestly should have started that before the season started when evaluating Herrera.
I don't disagree with that.
And they already knew that he
Driveline.
Yeah. Yes, he went to Driveline,
So
Randy.
think,
and Driveline fixes everything. Just ask Zach Thompson how that went. just ask him.
I don't disagree necessarily with anything you're saying. It's just that when I said these things a week ago, you told me that it was too early in the season to be worrying about Jordan Walker.
Oh, no, I just said you got to look at him for 6 months. I just said that. Like,
I'm not saying you're saying that they need to send him down.
My question is, at what point do you get scared?
That was my question last week. And what happened in the last 7? There was a lot of downturn in the last 7 days.
Well, he, like Brooke said, mechanically, you would hope that a guy who is here to be a hitter would make those quick adjustments, and it doesn't look like that's happening. But that's why this year is in play, because you need to find out if he's capable of making those adjustments. But you also have to protect yourself a little bit, because you don't want a guy coming up, and this, I don't think it'd ever happen at the major league level, where a guy would only play like 30 outfield games in his professional career and then come up and then play in the majors. Right? I don't think that any major league team would do that. So I wouldn't want to have them put Herrera in that situation. Brooke, you can't imagine a guy only playing like 30 games in the minors.
And then all of a sudden they just switch positions.
Put him in that position and not have any real experience.
I think that's what the offseason is for. Wilson Contreras showed that you can learn a new position during the offseason. This past offseason, they let Ivan Herrera focus on him and behind the plate, working on things defensively. The arm is clearly not there, but I think that you have to just see this season through. And if you
No, no.
want to do
Yeah.
that with Ivan Herrera, then you can, because imagine what that signals to Jordan Walker too, if he knows that you're going ahead and working on Ivan Herrera being an outfielder. And by the way, Jose Barrero, I think, is going to be really interesting with him coming up, because if you look, he has a lot of experience at short, but also in the outfield.
Yeah. He is a legitimate 26th player.
He is. But it's still interesting that was the guy that they're bringing up. And maybe it had more to do with who they're facing, since he has that experience. But I think Jose Barrero will be interesting to watch here. But Ivan Herrera, you can't, I don't know. It's things that they should have been proactive about, but now they're being reactive.
Well, and maybe the thing to do is, if you're going to DH him, have him work with Gagne before games. But at least allow him to get an opportunity in the outfield. Brooke, before we get to JR, I want to take a moment to talk about the passing of Walt Jocketty this weekend at the age of 74. And by the way, he'd been in the hospital for like 17 consecutive months.
Yeah.
It must have been miserable for him down the stretch of his life. But what a gentleman Walt Jocketty was. And I want to get to a couple of things. Number one, the way he was professionally. He rebuilt the Cardinals when they were an awful team in 1995. And for 1996, new ownership comes in, the DeWitt ownership. He gets Ron Gant, Gary Gaetti, Royce Clayton, Mike Gallego, Todd Stottlemyre, Andy Bennis, Rick Honeycutt, Dennis Eckersley. Cardinals go from worst to first. And he did a great job of retooling the team. In 1997, he gets Mark McGwire. McGwire sells out the stadium for 98, 99, 2000. And then obviously he got hurt in 2001. But with the money that they got from Mark McGwire, Walt did something that I don't think has ever been done before, and I don't think will ever be done again. After the 99 season, Cardinals needed to retool, and they had some money. He goes out and gets Mike Matheny. He gets Edgar Renteria to play short. Mike Matheny, the catcher. Edgar Renteria, the shortstop. Fernando Vina, the second baseman. Jim Edmonds, the center fielder. He gets Darryl Kyle. He gets Andy Bennis back. He gets Pat Hentgen. He gets Dave Veers to close. He literally rebuilt the entire up the middle. Everybody says, not everybody, but all good baseball people, you win up the middle. Mm-hmm. He completely rebuilt the up the middle. And that was the start of, if you want to call it a dynasty, that was the start of the Cardinals run. 12 out of 16 years, they go to the playoffs. They go to the World Series 3 times, and they win it twice, obviously, in 2006 and 2011. So that was unbelievable, the way he was able to retool a team. The other thing that I'll remember strongly about Walt Jocketty is how paranoid sports is now, and how completely devoid of paranoia Walt Jocketty was. He wanted to help sell the franchise. He wanted the franchise to do well. And a couple of things stand out. Number one, there's 3, but I'll give you 2 of them. In 1997, before the McGwire trade, like a week before the trade deadline, I'm on the post game on KMOX and telling people, I said, hey, the McGwire thing's not going to happen. Don't get your hopes up. I just wanted to, prepare everybody for the inevitable that we weren't going to get McGwire. This is during a post game show down at the ballpark, downstairs studio. And Walt comes down and he's standing outside the glass. I go to a break and I said, what's up? He said, hey, don't be so quick to dismiss the whole McGwire thing. I don't think it's dead yet. And I said, okay. And so the first thing I did, I come back and I said, after thinking about it a little bit, I don't think that we should completely dismiss the idea of the Cardinals getting Mark McGwire. And then like the next night they get him. And then another time, this is spring training of 2000. I do the open line on the Mighty Mocs and get off the air. And I'm walking out. I tear down all the equipment. I'm walking out. And as I'm walking out, Walt is walking in. He said, where are you going? And I said, I'm done with the show. I'm going to go grab some dinner. He said, you know what? You should stick around for a few minutes. And I said, okay. He said, just go back in the media room and hang out. I said, okay. I didn't know. I have any idea what was going on. Go back in the media room. I'm just reading stuff. But 10 minutes later, Brian Bartow walks in and says, hey, we just traded for Jim Edmonds. And I get to go back on KMOX and break that story. And,
wow.
and Walt wanted to make sure that people that he respected and people were around that were covering the team on a regular basis, he wanted to make sure that they were able to get a little sugar, get a little love. And so he was awesome about that. He tipped me off to Ankiel. I was telling Matthew before the show, Cardinals had drafted Adam Kennedy in the first round. And Adam Kennedy at that time, he was kind of like what J.J. Weatherholt was last year. He was considered the best pure hitter in the draft. And I'm talking to him I think the day after. They used to have the whole draft right away. didn't have just the first round. And I'm talking to him night of the game, and I said, man, he must be fired up about Kennedy, man. Everybody loves the kid. He's going to be really good. He said, but keep an eye on the second rounder, this Richard Ankiel that we drafted. He's a Boris guy, and that's why he fell. But we think we can sign him, and he's going to be dynamite. And so I keep an eye on Rick Ankiel, and 194 strikeouts in the 2000 season later. He would have been a stud as a pitcher if he doesn't blow up. But Walt he wanted people to be informed about the team, and he took it upon himself to help market the team that way, to get people excited. Okay, I'm telling people, don't be excited about getting McGuire. And he said, no, be excited. I'm doing open lines saying, this team, it's not very good. So first thing you can do, okay, well, no, get him excited. We're getting a guy like Evans. Kennedy's good, but I got this other guy. Be really excited. He was a general manager that wanted people to be excited about his franchise.
It might be hard, but what do you think is the best move that he made during his career? Is it Tony La Russa hiring him? Is it McGuire?
That was
Is it
huge,
Edmonds?
and that was obviously the most impactful. But the one that changed the organization was the McGuire trade. And he was Big Mac told the story. I think he might have even told it in his Cardinal Hall of Fame induction speech about how he was driving across the Bay Bridge on the phone with Walt Jocketty and Walt is saying, hey, you got to come home and be with your dad. This guy's your baseball dad. You got to come home and be with him. And as Big Mac is driving across the Bay Bridge, Walt is talking him into becoming a Cardinal.
Wow.
And telling him about how great it is in St. Louis. McGuire had no idea. And then all it took was, he goes to Philly, has the bad start. He said, I thought everybody was going to boo me because he went one for his first 18 or something as a Cardinal. Then he shows up here, first game, and he gets a standing ovation. And I think Big Mac kind of cried a little bit.
So he sold people on Busch Stadium and St. Louis being baseball heaven, and he made sure it was baseball heaven at the same time.
He did. Yeah, Walt Jocketty was awesome, and he will be missed. You do the stuff that he did. It's hard to argue against him being the best GM that the Cardinals have had in the expansion era since 1960.
I saw some people ask on the chat too, and we'll get to Jeremy Rutherford here in a second, but do you think that maybe we could see a statue for him in front of Busch one day?
I think that would be a great idea, Brooke. I don't know, but I think that would be a great idea. And I hope very soon he goes into the Cardinal Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
All right. The Blues headed back to Winnipeg. Another trip to Winnipeg for Jeremy Rutherford of The Athletic, who's with us now. Let's see if we can see JR. We're going to try. We're working on it. We're working on JR, who loves to go back to, there he is. Okay. So JR, I'm going to have Brooke tell you what kind of socks I'm wearing. Brooke, what kind of socks am I wearing?
Blue socks.
Are you wearing socks?
I am wearing socks. I don't know if I'm athletic enough to put my leg up on the table here. So, I am wearing socks, much to probably the chagrin of my family, who, if people don't know the backstory, I forgot to pack some socks when I went to Winnipeg in 2019. And when the Blues won the series, my daughter said that you can no longer wear socks, Dad. So.
I love that. I always love the little superstitious things. Are you allowed? So you are allowed to wear socks now during the playoffs?
You know what? It was 70 degrees in Winnipeg last week when I was up there. So we're going back again tomorrow. I don't know what the weather is yet, but I plan to take some socks. And with the way the series is going, guys, I don't think too many people can complain about that superstitious angle.
No. Jeremy, how exciting this homestand was when you brought it back here for game 3 and game 4 for the Blues. And it wasn't just like they won a little bit. The way that they just absolutely dominated the President's Trophy winners, that's a really good team over there. And the Blues were able to handle them, get into Connor Hellebuyck's head. I'm sure you heard us discussing that. But if there is one thing that you could point to, and it might be hard to do, one thing that you could point to that turned this series around where the Blues were able to tie it up, what would that be?
That's the thing, Brooke, dominating them. Like, I expected the Blues probably to win game 3, and maybe they go 2-0 at home and even the series, but I expected 2-1, 3-2, not the way that they've done it. 12-3, a combined score in those 2 games. You know, what's changed? First of all, I think it's the adjustments that Jim Montgomery's made, and even somebody like all of us who've watched hockey for a long time, it's kind of tough to see in game precisely what the Blues are doing. But what we can say is that they've made some adjustments along the boards, some little subtle one-touch passes to be able to get out of their zone better, cleaner, and get into the offensive zone and sustain some zone time. But I'll give you this number. This is the number that really stuck out, I think, when I was working on the story that's up at The Athletic right now, is look at the defensemen the Blues defensemen. They've been involved in the play all season long, third in goals among defensemen in the entire league. And in those first 2 games in Winnipeg, no goals, 4 assists, but they only had 25 shots directed at the net in those 2 games. In games 3 and 4, they've got 4 goals, 9 assists, and they've directed 51 of the 107 shots that the team has taken at the net. They've been much more involved. It's led to some offensive production and some key goals, none bigger than Colton Parayko's shot on net that Jake Neighbors deflects at the end of the first period and turns the tide yesterday.
And JR, we're watching a guy like Tucker, and hopefully he'll be healthy. I don't know how bad the injury is, but we're watching him evolve before our eyes too, aren't we? I didn't think that we would see out of Tyler Tucker what we have seen. We knew he was a tough guy, but he can play.
He can really play. And Randy, when it was a numbers game at the start of the season and he had to go back down, they kept Kessel. And when they made the trade for Cam Fowler in December, I think they had the option to bring Kessel back or bring Tucker up, and they brought Tyler Tucker up. And even though I felt like I had a good handle on what type of player he was, he was a little bit raw and he was going to take some time to develop. I didn't realize the offensive capability that he had. But now every time that Jim Montgomery is asked about Tyler Tucker, he says, you guys don't give him enough credit for his offensive ability. And he's right. What does he have? About 3 goals this year that are just absolute bombs from the point. Yesterday being one of them, but now it does look like they could be without Tyler Tucker. He was wincing as he went down yesterday, that right leg putting little weight on it on the way to the bench. And my understanding is that he's going to miss some time and that Ryan Suter is expected to be back in the lineup for game 5.
Oh, we hate to hear that about Tucker, but yeah, he did not look great at the end of the game there when he was exiting. Now, looking at some of the other things too for the Blues, and I mentioned this earlier, and I talked with Jamal Mayers about this last night. Secondary scoring has been a difference maker too, because obviously we know the guys over on the other side with the Jets, Schiefele and Connor, are extremely talented, but they seem to be the only ones who have done much in these last 2 games for the Winnipeg Jets. The Blues on the other side, they're getting a lot of secondary scoring from so many different guys. You mentioned the defensemen, but we saw Jake Neighbors step up, Pavel Buchnevich, obviously with that Hattie the other day. It seems like the Blues have a lot more weapons to be able to score.
Yeah, there's been a lot of focus on Connor Hellebuyck, and rightly so. He's been pulled in back-to-back games, but the Jets don't look good in front of him, and it's not just defensively, it's up front as well. So you get a ton generated by Schiefele and Connor, and we saw more of it in games 1 and 2 than we did in 3 and 4. But you're right, that secondary scoring has been a difference. The Blues' top 6 has been pretty productive when you talk about, Braden Shen picking up a goal, Robert Thomas. And that third line, even though maybe not a lot of offense in terms of production, they're getting some shots. I think Zach Bolduc's been in spots where he's gotten his shot off and done a lot more than the secondary scoring of the Jets. You're absolutely right. And the Jets getting nothing offensively from their defense. So there is a lot of focus on Connor Hellebuyck because the puck's going in the net, but there are other areas of this series where the Blues are taking advantage, and that's definitely one of them.
JR, were there things that the Blues did to succeed at home, primarily speaking of the last change? Do you think that there's things that they need to change when they go on the road on Wednesday night, or can they try to play the same game?
Well, yeah, it's going to be a lot tougher, a tough place to play, and Jets are going to be feeling it come game 5. I think that one thing, Randy, that you got to give the Blues credit for is that when they came home, those first couple shifts, we saw Jim Montgomery put Braden Shen's line out against the Schiefele line. But I think with these days off in between games, and there's been 3 2-day breaks, which we should probably talk about here in a minute because I think that's been significant in this series. Robert Thomas, I feel like, has been able to recover from each game and not be 100%, but closer to it. And Jim Montgomery hasn't gone away from that matchup. We've seen a lot of Thomas versus Schiefele in these past couple games. And Thomas, who had the upper hand in that matchup throughout the regular season, just maybe not in those first 2 games in Winnipeg, they've played pretty good defense against them in games 3 and 4. So, I don't think that the Blues go back to Winnipeg, to answer your question, disappointed that the Jets are probably going to come back with Schiefele at Robert Thomas like they did in games 1 and 2.
All right, the significance of the schedule then.
Yeah, I think it's significant because, everybody knows that playoff time, the buildings are scheduled, and the Blues had a Brooks and Dunn concert Friday. They had a Cat Williams show on Saturday. And so therefore, because of that, they had to separate and make games 3 on Thursday and 4 on Sunday. Well, now you go back to Winnipeg. You can't play today, right? Winnipeg has a concert on Tuesday, Bush concert. I'm too old. It's one of my bands, though, right? And then so they're going to play Game 5 on Wednesday. So you have had 3 games, Randy and Brooke, in 9 days. 3 games in 9 days. I think that gives the Blues an advantage for this reason. It took 4 days in Winnipeg to play games 1 and 2. So the Blues were up there. You play bang, bang, you lose. You don't have much time to stew over it. Then you lose game 2. You're excited to get back home, where at that point you'd won 12 in a row, right? So then with the 2 days off, the Blues are with their families, go on a nice walk. The Winnipeg players are stewing in the hotel about a 7-2 loss in game 3. Connor Hellebuyck, has to sit there and think about it. And then they get another 2 days off. And now the Blues don't have to go back to Winnipeg until tomorrow. You're right up there. You play the game, you come back. So I think because of the scheduling, because of the way that things have worked out, not only has it allowed guys like Thomas Karraker to recover, but also, guys, the physicality in the series. Blues are number 1 in hits per 60 minutes, 45.3 hits per 60 minutes in this series. And they're able to recharge the batteries with these 2-day breaks and keep coming at you. I know people can say the same is said for Winnipeg, but the Blues are a team that thrive on this, playing this way, and they're getting a chance, like I said, to recharge those batteries.
So thank you to whoever scheduled those concerts in advance, is what you're saying, basically.
Yeah.
Back in the day, by the way, the Cubs used to schedule concerts for Wrigley Field in early October.
They just knew. They just knew.
Yeah.
There was never any schedule conflicts there.
Yeah, I didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about Jimmy Snuggerud and what you've seen from him and what it's even like interacting with him, how he is advancing and how he feels about this experience in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it's been phenomenal how he has just blended right in. Like, I assume he would come here, and at the time when you're thinking about him coming here, you're not necessarily thinking about a long playoff run and how he would handle that. But, is he going to come in and play right wing third line, and they're going to move Zach Bolduc up into the top 6 because he's got more experience? No, what do? They put Jimmy Snuggerud on the top line with Thomas and Buchnevich, and we know the skills there. We know that he's got the shot, but as I tweeted yesterday, like his vision, he has made some passes where you can tell that he sees 3 seconds ahead of time where that player is going to be. And he's just been playing with these guys for a couple of weeks. And also, I want to point this out with Jimmy Snuggerud, Brooke, is that you would think that that offensive skill set would be there and you would see plays get made in that zone, but he's played well defensively. He's got a tremendous stick in terms of lifting sticks, breaking up plays. And his dad told me that the other day. He really feels like that's an attribute that he has defensively to be able to break up plays. The one thing I can say is, how many times have we watched Jimmy Snuggerud since he's been here and said, oh, there's a mistake. There's a mistake. I can count 2 maybe since he's gotten here. So I think his blending in with this team and coming at the absolute perfect time when Dylan Holloway went out has been very helpful for the Blues.
So, JR, how do you think, and we're going to presume that Tucker is not going to be available, how do you think things shake out on Wednesday? What does your crystal ball tell you?
Well, I have had a lot of success predicting what the Blues will do this year. Namely, I said they'd make the playoffs. I said they'd beat the Jets. No, I can't figure this team out, Randy. It's insane. Like, to think a couple weeks ago or a month ago that 18,096 fans would be chanting, "We want Connor," after he's been pulled for the second straight game. I don't know how you can predict anything with what's going on here. But I will say this. I don't think the Blues are going to be overwhelmed playing in Winnipeg after being there for games 1 and 2. I think they're going to go up there and it's just going to be a game to them. And I feel like they got the momentum right now. I mean, that's obviously stating what everybody sees after games 3 and 4. So to me, if they can keep getting good work from Jordan Binnington, who I think has been an unsung hero in this series, he just keeps getting the job done, and they just go up there and are able to get to Connor Hellebuyck, who I presume would be the goaltender in that first period, I think they have a chance of winning this game, game 5. I just think that the Jets right now look lost, and the Blues have every right to go up there feeling confident about the way they're playing.
You've been able to follow this team from the transition from Drew Bannister and Jordan Montgomery. You're there at practices all the time. You're interacting with the guys. What was the biggest shift that you noticed between Drew Bannister and Jim Montgomery with the players? And this is nothing against Drew Bannister. It's just that there's clearly a difference with this group.
Yeah, I would say, first of all, yes, all due respect to Drew Bannister. I had a lot of respect for him, and I hope he gets back into the league. This is my 20th season covering the team. I've been around for multiple coaching changes. You're right. You're in the locker room. You can feel the vibe when there's a coaching change. And a lot of times it is pretty somber, even amongst guys who, might want to change. You can just tell for a few days there's a vibe. And with this, from the minute we walked in Madison Square Garden and Jim Montgomery was the coach, everybody just had a pep in their step. And I think what that boils down to is his positive energy, being around him. You can feel it. And he's an X's and O's guy. Like, I remember after the Blues lost games 1 and 2 of this series, we were coming back to St. Louis. And one of the questions was, how much do you look forward to the adjustments that are going to be made? And he said, it's the best part of playoff hockey. I love this. I can't wait to go back and forth with Scott Arniel and see who's going to stay one step ahead of the game here in terms of the adjustments. So the best way I can say it, Brooke, is Blues players feel comfortable and confident knowing that Jim Montgomery is behind their bench.
And you know what, guys, for me, the word is legitimacy, because Monty, and for these players, obviously, they've been around him as an assistant, but he coached a team to the best record in the history of the league just 2 years ago. And again, taking nothing away from Drew Bannister, he just never had the opportunity. He coached less than a full season in the NHL. So you get rid of a guy who has been a career minor league coach and was an NHL player, but you bring in a guy who has coached a team to the best record in the history of the league. And if you're a player, I think the word legitimacy does put pep in somebody's step.
Yeah, 100%. And I know this has been discussed, but I'll add to it. Look what Jim Montgomery's resume is, coaching at the University of Denver, where he's had young, very, very talented players who were headed to the NHL. He's got that experience of how to deal with somebody 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. He can go to Zach Bolduc and say, hey, I think this works. But yet he can also go to Jordan Kyrou and say, hey, when I dealt with David Pastrnak and Patrice Bergeron in Boston, here's what helped them. Like, just the plethora of the situations that he's been in, and the knowledge that he has, and the expertise of people who were playing at the highest level at that point, whether it be college or NHL or All-Stars or whatever, he's dealt with it all. And I think goes back to that legitimacy that you're talking about.
By the way, a lot of coaches talk to players through the media. I thought when we have this conversation, his comments yesterday about how you have a guy like Jordan Kyrou that's going to the crease and going to the net, that means you have buy-in from the whole group. I wonder if he wants Jordan Kyrou to hear that, and Jordan Kyrou to say, okay, this is what works. This is the right thing that I'm doing. Yeah,
you're right. And we see it in practice too, guys. Just a couple of days ago, I think Kyrou was, whatever the drill was, he had a little mistake, and Jim Montgomery jumped him in practice. And then you could see, as Kyrou finished that drill, he was skating to the wall where the players always wait to do their next repetition in the drill. And Montgomery pointed to Julian, and Julian knew what to do. Obviously, a longtime head coach in this league, Claude Julien, and he went straight to Kyrou, and they talked for a minute before the next repetition. He's able to tell him, hey, this is what Jim wants. This is why he snapped at you. And so, yeah, it's just constant. Like, they never stop coaching these guys.
Good cop, bad cop. Okay, JR, last thing from me. You saw that Mike Sullivan and the Penguins parted ways this morning?
Mm-hmm.
And he had been there for a decade, and he had Crosby and Malkin and Letang and that group. So if you're the Blackhawks with the Bedard, if you're the Ducks with their wealth of young talent, and the Rangers too have some really good young talent, seems to me that Mike Sullivan, if he wants a job next year, can have a job with some pretty good young talent, and in a large part because he's succeeded with high-level talent. You agree?
Yeah, no, I think that could definitely be of interest because of what you just mentioned. I'm just looking at around the league and so many high-profile jobs with the Rangers. So there's just so many jobs in the league right now, and these big market teams, I think, are going to throw a lot of money at the next coach because they have to, right? They have to win. So I already saw Frank Saravelli or somebody had it was Kevin Weeks had a tweet today that said, could Mike Sullivan get $7 million from one of those teams that are desperate for a coach, one of those big market teams? So while the Chicago Blackhawks could make sense, if he feels like they're far away and maybe they're not going to match the money that the Rangers or somebody else would, that might be a tough situation to turn down. So we'll see. But yeah, lots of landing spots potentially for Mike Sullivan.
JR, you're the best. When are you leaving for Winnipeg?
10:35-ish tomorrow.
Okay,
Ooh.
26 degrees, by the way, tonight. So when you get there tomorrow, it might be a little cool, but then it'll be nice again. So
you
you're
need
gonna be fine.
socks.
Oh, take some socks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, what is it like getting into Winnipeg? Because I've always heard stories that it's not easy.
It's not that bad. The thing is, there's not a direct flight, so we're going to stop in, I think, Minneapolis tomorrow. But yeah, what I judge it on, Brooke, is how far is the airport from the hotel. Like you go to Edmonton, and it's about 45 minutes. I think Colorado is about 50 minutes. So the Winnipeg trip, I want to say, is about 15, 20 minutes. So not too bad. So I'll take
That's
this
not
one.
bad.
Yeah.
Safe travel, sir. We always appreciate your time, and we love your work in the Athletic. What's you talked earlier about your latest piece. What do you have up right now, and what's coming up next?
Yeah, we talk about what the Blues are doing to put Connor Hellebuyck on the bench at the end of these games in today's story, how they're chasing him from games 3 and 4. And coming up, I think we're going to delve a little bit into that schedule and how it's really helped the Blues and as we get ready for game 5. Randy, there's so many days off, I got to come up with extra stories. fill the time off.
Text me. I've got a million ideas, and I don't have a writing job. So yeah,
All right.
we'll
be looking for your
do
text
something
later.
on the 4th string St. Louis Rams left tackle. We
right.
used to work for what was that? Did you ever write for Rams Weekly?
Rams
Were
Rams update, yeah.
Rams Update. Yeah, we both did. Did you ever get paid? I never did.
I didn't. I'm still waiting for my last
Thanks, brother.
run to the mailbox every day, Randy.
Me too. We'll see you later, man. Take care. That's
Oh,
our buddy
man.
Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic. Yeah, that did happen.
That did happen.
Yeah,
Okay.
17 weeks worth, or 16 or whatever. Hey, we've got the St. Louis Cards Hub 365 tonight after the Cardinal game. And it's brought to you in part by HotShots, who invites you to come out to their St. Charles location on Sunday, June 1st to celebrate their 35th anniversary. The fun starts at noon with a parking lot party featuring the Budweiser Clydesdales. Prizes will be given away all day. There's a dart tournament at noon, a bags tournament at 2, plus a chance to win Hot Shots tacos for a year. That's right. I just said a chance to win Hot Shots tacos for a year.
And Randy, you can see right there on the screen, how do you win Hot Shots tacos for a year? You just have to eat the most Hot Shots tacos. It's a Hot Shots taco eating contest to win tacos for a year. So if you want the tacos, I can't think of a better way to win them.
That's the one eating contest that I could win.
I could win that one.
I was going to ask who
We've
in this
talked about this
room-
before.
But I wanted to ask who in this room, and the people in the chat, you can weigh in. So it's Matthew Rocchio, Randy, me, and Wilson. We'll add Wilson to this because he's in the room too. Wilson, we're keeping a mystery, by the way. We're keeping him. Maybe one day we'll reveal him, but he maybe not. But
We're just gonna put
in
a
this
fence right
room,
for his nose.
in this room, who do you think would win an eating contest?
Okay, let me
Really,
start
you
with
think
this.
Randy? Because you have done eating
I've
competitions
won eating
before.
competitions. Okay, well, we got to set some parameters here. So are we talking pregnant Brooke or not pregnant Brooke?
I was just about to say, is this before or after your due date?
Here's the thing.
As she sets her hands.
I thought that I would be eating more during pregnancy, but I get full fast because there's a baby in
Okay,
here.
got
So
it.
he takes
Yeah.
up a lot of
Pinching
room.
everything.
Now, not pregnant Brooke can eat a lot. She can eat a lot. Like you can ask my dad. My dad eats super fast, eats a ton of food. And so
And you
prior
guys have
to
eaten
that,
a few tacos. You and your dad have had some
Oh,
tacos.
so
oh my
even-
God. Yeah,
even
we can throw down. But
even if
I think
we-
I could be up there, not pregnant. Now, pregnant Brooke, she'd have to tap out.
Even if we
Definitely.
lined it up with a craving.
Probably not.
So-
I
wow.
get full so quickly
Okay.
now, and it sucks. And then you get acid reflux too when you're pregnant.
Yeah.
So it's not a great combo.
So-
This would
It's
be
not
a
a great
good one
combo.
because
there's
not a
yeah.
lot of foods that I would confidently say I could do an eating contest for. Hot Shots tacos is one that I'm with you, Randy. I could do it.
I'm there too. I think we've got a competition.
I think we
going.
gotta go.
We'll make a little bet here for June 1st. The
Joe,
other
who do you think?
Joe, you think we can
Joe-
get? Think we can get like a special like celeb table at the taco eating contest? What's the time?
do we have a
frame?
time?
How
Or
big
is it
are these
just,
tacos?
Give me a
Rocco?
time frame and I'll give you a number.
12
um,
minutes. How big are these tacos? Are they like
They're
Jack in the Box.
they're
style
Jack in the Box
tacos, yeah.
style, but they're a little
Okay.
bit meatier. I would say I'm going to start off at a solid 3 taco per minute pace, but I'm not going to keep that up. So I'm not getting to 40. I'm probably getting around 28
Wow,
to
really?
30.
Wait, so if this happens on June 1st, then I wouldn't have a baby. I think
Yeah.
I'd be up there in the competition. I feel like I would be up there.
Do you think you can
I
eat
would have it.
more?
Well, I should rephrase. I'll have a baby,
She's
but
saying
it won't be.
She thinks she can eat more post baby.
I can eat a lot. Yeah, I can eat a lot of food.
I'm trying to figure this out. So I'm probably 12.
I'm getting to
then
30.
in the remaining. So we're doing 12 minutes, right?
Mhm.
So I could probably do. I'm probably in the same area. 28, did you say?
I said 28
Yeah, I'm probably in that same area.
because the
Are
first
you guys
couple
doing?
minutes,
Are you
I'm
guys
doing
going to do
3.
it? If it's a competition, are you doing it like Joey Chestnut
No,
style, where you're
no,
dipping it in the
no,
water
no.
and then doing that technique, or you're just
Well,
kind of wolf it down?
I'm not here to. I'm here to enjoy myself, not necessarily. Like if I have to pick between winning and enjoying myself,
oh, then I'm going with
I'm picking
Randy.
enjoying
Then.
myself.
If you just said that you wanna enjoy
mean
yourself,
not
then you're
dipping in
out.
water.
Not dipping them in water.
I'm gonna-
Oh no,
I'm here
I'm
to
gonna
compete.
feel like crap afterwards.
Okay, would you dip them in ranch?
That's thicker.
See,
I would
that's-
100% dip this taco
God,
in
but
ranch.
man,
I'm
and
eating
these
them
are-
for
I'm losing
breakfast,
though.
yeah.
I'm
These are-
losing though if I dip them in ranch. That's a lot of space. Ranch is taking up space.
And these are
It's a lot of
regular
dairy.
taco shell. These are not soft tacos, right? These are.
No, well, they are.
You've had Jack
they're-
in the Box tacos,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
They're the
it's kinda
curious case
halfway
of
soft.
both being
Yeah.
softened and
Yeah.
hardened
Okay.
by the
Unless
fact
somebody's
they've
just
been
really
fried.
frying those bad boys.
I've
Okay.
texted
Then-
Justin Boyd to kind of
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay. We'll make that happen. Yeah, that'll be good.
I'm getting an early vote
No.
right now from Let's Turn 2.
Well, and one thing that I do not do, like I'm not going to partake of the devil's lettuce either. I'm not going to. And I don't know, Matthew, if you're.
Yeah, are we allowed performance enhancing drugs?
the Acapulco Black. I don't know if we're gonna.
I cannot.
Yeah,
Gotta be honest, Randy. I've never seen
yeah,
a
the red
string that's
Apache. I don't
black.
know if we're gonna be partaking. So anyway, congratulations to Hot Shots on 35 years. Hot Shots St. Louis home for all the games, all the time since 1990. Find yours at hotshotsnet.com. 35 years. And June 1st, it all starts at noon. And our buddies Rafe and Rizzuto are going to be out there too. That'll be fun.
There's a couple great things there too. Also, St. Louis City SC celeb bartenders.
Uh-huh.
They do that a bunch down at the pitch
Yeah.
club right there. It's always a great time. I love that City gets involved in these kind of things. Great work by Justin Boyd and Hot Shots. It's going to be a great event.
Yeah, that'll be
That's
fantastic.
smart.
June 1st. So we're looking forward to that. By the way, we should also tell you that with baseball season here, you need to take advantage of your great baseball knowledge in America's best baseball city. Step up to the plate with DraftKings Pick 6. Think of DraftKings Pick 6 as your fastball right down the middle. It's an easy way for you to play for cash and take a shot at the big win. Select 2 or more players each day at DraftKings Pick 6, and if they'll have more or less of a stat. It's really easy. It's really fun, and it's available in Missouri and California and Texas, Georgia, and a lot more. Cash in your baseball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. I love playing it every day. You will too. Use the promo code STL Sports at DraftKings, where the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Now it's time for the Grim Report. NFL draft is over with. Congratulations to Luther Burden, Chicago Bears. I was trying hard to get him over to the Tennessee Titans. I even went on Nashville radio on the other day and I was like campaigning for him that the Titans would pick him up. Didn't work out that way. Hopefully everything will go well for him and the Chicago Bears. But the big story of the NFL draft, Shedeur Sanders, he was drafted late in the 5th round, 144th pick overall. I was not expecting him to fall that much in the NFL draft. 2nd round, I wasn't expecting 1st round. I should go ahead and start with that. Wasn't expecting 1st round. I was thinking 2nd round would make more sense than the 3rd round. Whoa, what's going on here? And the fact that he wasn't taken until the 5th round completely shocked me. Were you shocked by that?
I was shocked. And maybe we just give too much respect to Mel Kiper. I don't know.
He was losing his
He
mind.
was. Yeah, there's great
He
piece
was
of The Athletic.
losing his
Did
mind.
the
That's a
Shedeur
bad
Sanders
look.
situation break Mel Kiper? But a couple of things. Number one, Brooke, the franchise that took him, they traded for a guy who had like 25 lawsuits against him. And they thought he could win, right? They thought Deshaun Watson could win,
Guaranteed money.
right? So I've thought that there are certain franchises that doesn't matter what you've done in the past. If they think that you can play quarterback for them and win for them, they're going to take you high and give up a lot to get you. Clearly, teams didn't think that Shedeur Sanders is capable of winning for them, at least in the near term, to make it worthwhile to take him with a high pick. I thought that there was a very interesting article, again, at The Athletic, trying to analyze it and suggesting that, okay, one of the problems when you have such a big name, high profile guy, unless you have a Mahomes, a Burrow, an Allen, a big name starter, if you have one of the other, one of the 20 lesser starting quarterbacks, if you have Shedeur Sanders there, as soon as that guy slips up a little bit, the fans are going to be calling for Shedeur, and maybe even teammates. Maybe you don't want that. And then the other part of it is maybe he showed them, because there was so much smoke about how he didn't interview well. Maybe people thought, okay, I saw him on tape. I saw his physical attributes. I see that he's tough, but I don't see this guy as the face of my franchise, because wherever he had gone before, Dion was the face of the franchise. He didn't have to be the face of the franchise. Now your quarterback has to be front and center. And maybe they thought, and this is again speculation, maybe the feeling was, okay, the way he interviewed with me, I don't want him being front and center for my franchise.
And he didn't participate in the NFL Combine,
Right.
which I know that that's something that other players don't do as well. But you combine that with all those reports of him not interviewing well. So then it felt like everything might have been too individualized for him. And he hadn't showcased during his time at Colorado that he could be the guy for your franchise, the number one quarterback. I just don't understand what the Browns are thinking here necessarily, because when you looked at the war room when they drafted him, it looked like they were even kind of shocked. There was speculation of, did they even know that they were drafting him?
Right.
Was this a Haslam call where he called him up and said, yeah, just go ahead and get him? You now have 5 quarterbacks for the Browns. And I saw somebody in the chat say, if you have 5 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. You were correct. Obviously, not all those guys are sticking around. What is the point of even drafting him then?
Well, I think you do look at the numbers that he put up, the touchdown passes, the yardage. I mean, he was right there with Cam Ward among the best overall numbers. Now, Will Howard had good numbers too, and he didn't go until the 6th round. There were other quarterbacks that were highly productive in college. Another guy that they drafted, the Browns drafted, and Dylan Gabriel, highly productive at Oklahoma and at Oregon, that had to wait as well. It's hard to find a quarterback, and a lot of times it's just a matter of luck. It's a matter. I mean, look at Brady. The people can say in New England, yeah, we knew it was going to happen. No, if you knew it was going to happen, you would have taken him with the 1st overall pick.
This could be Ben says, Brady has mentored him for years, and the Raiders didn't draft him. That also should speak volumes.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot there to be taken out of this. And now he's in an ideal situation, because all he has to do is prove that he's as good as people, Mel Kiper, think he is. And it doesn't matter what round you were picked in. Once you get into camp, if you prove yourself to be the guy, especially at that position, you're going to be the guy and you're going to make a lot of money.
I mentioned this on Friday when Rocky and I were talking about it. It annoyed me so much. It annoyed me so much with Mel Kiper, how he turned the entire NFL draft into Shedeur Sanders. I felt like they spent too much time on Shedeur Sanders, where you thought that he should have been the number 1 overall pick in this year's NFL draft. He was never expected to be the number 1 overall pick. And they even, if you watch the draft on Thursday, when they picked up Cam Ward, the Titans, they moved on from that, and they were talking about Shedeur in a second.
Right.
They spent so much time during the NFL draft talking about Shedeur. I understand that everything's kind of about the dramatics now, and it helps with ratings because people like to see that story of, oh, this guy who was maybe predicted to be in the 1st round falls. But it felt like the whole story just turned into Shedeur Sanders.
Well, and Mel Kiper.
Yes, because he
Right.
was. Is he okay?
He would never let go.
He was blowing up.
I don't know if who Shedeur Sanders' agent is. Mel Kiper, very good friends with Gary Wishart, an agent. And there was a lot of speculation when he was all over Jimmy Clausen in 2010. Had Clausen, despite Sam Bradford having what many people said was the best pro day that they'd ever seen, but he thought that Jimmy Clausen was the number one player in the draft, and Jimmy Clausen obviously did not work out. I wonder if there's somebody there that he's friends with that he said, yeah, I'll sell him as much as I can. Because why else would you put him as one of your top 5 players when nobody else did?
Nobody else. I don't know. I could not understand what was going on. I just thought that it was really just shameful that turned into the story of the NFL draft, where I understand that it's an interesting story, but then to make that the centerpiece of even during the number 1 overall pick of the draft, who Cam Ward deserved it. We all knew that he was going to be the number 1 pick of the draft, that turned out to be the story where you're even moving on from him. And I mean, you just gave him it felt like a few minutes and then they were on to talking to Shedeur. It just really irritated me. I will say though, one thing, and I know that some people brought this up in the chat, where the prank call that we saw this weekend that happened with Shedeur, that was terrible. That's something that I felt bad for Shedeur for. I know that some people don't because he's so flashy and he had, the legendary setup and all that stuff going on. But that prank call was ridiculous. And I don't understand how it even happened. So if you saw what happened, the Falcons defensive coordinator, Jeff Ulbrich, his son Jax, apparently, according to them in that statement, had gotten a hold of his dad's iPad and that the phone number for Shedeur is just right there. Shedeur had a cell phone specifically just for teams to call him. It wasn't just his own everyday phone number. It was a specific phone so that he knew if somebody was calling that phone that it was to draft him, right? And then he gets a phone call. It was a prank. Some Ole Miss frat bros called him and tried to pretend that they were drafting him. And that video came out and we find out that it was his son. It was Jeff Ulbrich's son who had given up that phone number to his friends. They thought it was funny. I thought that was absolutely terrible. And I don't even understand how it exactly happened.
He got the number specifically to do a prank phone call.
Yeah.
And by the way, there were multiple players that got prank phone called during the draft, but obviously he was the most high profile. And what it turns out, hey, obviously this kid is just really mean.
That was terrible.
Yeah,
that was terrible.
This is the biggest weekend of somebody's life. And you're out there trying to make a joke out of it. And all I can take, number one, I don't know anybody named Jax. I know people on TV named Jax. Use the chat line. Is there a general perception? I don't know. Do we have any texters named Jax? Is there a general perception of people named Jax, Jax?
That they might be douchey? Is that what you're saying?
That was the exact word I had in
That
mind.
douchey? Yeah. That was pretty douchey of him.
It was
I think that's the best way to describe it, is that it was very douchey of him.
Yeah.
I just don't.
And really mean and just an awful thing to do.
He was just trying to impress his Ole Miss frat bros, and it's just ridiculous is what happened there. Was it really flashy what Shedeur was doing all weekend, having his legendary brand up? Yes, but you don't make a mockery out of someone's big weekend that they have working on their entire life. I just thought it was crazy. I do think it was just a little suspicious how he got the phone number. Now, I understand if there's a will, if there's a way with kids, and that I will learn through parenting here soon that even if you try to teach your kids all the right things, that they're going to do something different than what you plan on. But he had to have, his dad might have just offhand mentioned, yeah, I have Shedeur's number. Maybe we're going to draft him, maybe not. Or I don't know.
I think there was a list of
phone
numbers on an open iPad, like on a desk or something. And he walked by and he thought, oh, I'll do this because.
How mad would you be at your child?
Oh, really mad. So he was not, as we mentioned, the only guy that wound up getting prank called, though. Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State, got a prank call on Thursday. Well, the Jets were on the clock, and they wound up taking Armand Membo, as we know. But he was told that he was going to wind up going to the Jets. Warren was. Bill's 6th rounder, Chase Lunt, an offensive tackle, told reporters that he received 4 or 5 prank calls during the draft. So there were multiple players that got pranked during the course of the draft. So
that's ridiculous.
Yeah. And
that's ridiculous.
To his credit, probably forced, Jax Ulbrich did apologize on Instagram and said that he made a tremendous mistake. You want me to read?
You think so? Yeah.
So this is Jax. On Friday, I made a tremendous mistake. Shedeur, what I did was completely inexcusable and embarrassing and shameful. I'm so sorry it took away from your moment. It was selfish and childish. I could never imagine getting ready to celebrate one of the greatest moments of your life, and I made a terrible mistake and messed with that moment. Now I'm going to go back to work at the bar in Beverly Hills.
You know he doesn't even have a
Randy, I was gonna
job.
say,
You
yeah,
think he even
you
has a
kinda-
job?
Yeah.
You missed it there. On Friday, I made a tremendous mistake.
Okay, good.
Sure, what I did was completely inexcusable, embarrassing, shameful. I'm so sorry I took away your moment.
Sorry,
That's
bruh.
probably more
Yeah.
the
So
tone that he.
now I'm
had
going to go
read.
back to my job bussing at Pump.
If I was his dad, then I would say, yeah,
Wait,
you're.
one
If
more
he
time.
doesn't have
My
a job,
bad.
your butt needs to get a job. But
And-
yeah,
Yep. And
Sorry.
to his credit, Shedeur did accept the apology and took the phone call.
it's still ridiculous either way. I was trying to think. I was talking to my husband David about this weekend, this weekend, and he mentioned this story. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but I think there was a St. Charles cop where he went out of town, and his son, who was like 16 years old, took the cop car. Like, you know, they take the cop cars home, and his son took the keys and was pulling people over
Ooh.
and giving them tickets. He was like 16 years old. He thought it would be a funny prank. The dad lost his job
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah. And
And even though he wasn't in town, and it's like your son's like a little, douchebag,
Mhm.
and you can't control them completely. And David said that story reminded him of that.
Do
Now,
you
Ulrich
think-
didn't lose his job.
should there
but
be repercussions for Jeff Ulbrich, aside from having to coach the Jets for almost a whole year?
I don't think that you can, because I think that it was clearly an accident. And the NFL, by the way, they said that they aren't investigating this any further.
Yeah.
I don't think that there is anything that you could do. And the name's already out there. So Jax Ulrich, and when he tries to go get a job, anything like that,
Mhm.
people are going to see that now.
It's
If
gonna
he
be
wanted, if
online.
he wanted a job like what his dad has been doing, where a lot of children follow in their parents' footsteps, he's definitely never going to get a job in the NFL.
You shouldn't.
He shouldn't.
Unless his dad makes him quality control coach. Or
That's
some BS like that. And 12 years from now, he's the position coach, and everyone's like, why does that name sound familiar? And barely anyone brings it
Yeah.
up, because who cares what a position coach is doing? And he's making $180,000 a year. And so why does he care that he's not?
But still, in this day and
coordinator?
age, if you're going out and getting a job, I don't know what he's
Fine.
majoring in. And when people Google you and they see that come up, that's not a good look. Cronky Hater
Maybe he'll get a
says,
job as a scout.
Cronky Hater says, good to see your future Jags picked Hunter. Wait a minute. So if you're a Cronky Hater, I'm assuming that you were a Rams fan that maybe turned into a Jags fan. Out of all the teams, you picked the
Well,
Jags?
Well, they were supposed to be
Yeah.
ours.
It's because Shaq.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I
And
did
Mark-
see some
and Mark
people.
Lamping and James Gladstone.
Oh,
So
yeah,
the
that's
St.
fine.
Louis Jags.
Yeah.
We need to make that happen then.
Wait, is
Yeah.
Here
Gladstone
soon.
He's a Vianney kid. Their new GM in Jacksonville is
Ah.
another Vianney guy.
This
He's a
is
Vianney guy.
Yeah.
I
You remember,
don't know how
I think his
that's not
grandpa
Vianney.
Gene was a longtime head coach of the Golden Griffins.
Holy
Wow.
crap. Again, this is me just like not assuming nepotism, and so I don't
Oh.
connect last names like I should. That's
Yeah, so
insane. I had
Lamping
no idea.
Vianney, James Gladstone Vianney, yeah. Shad Khan
Mm.
Midwest.
This makes a couple tweets I saw over the weekend or on Thursday night. Now I'm getting context I didn't have. Thank you very much.
There you
Uh,
go.
No, via this show.
Via this
via
show.
the show. And the Jaguars do have a new stadium going up. They're kind of like Nicheville. Jaguars got a new stadium approved, and it's going to cost a couple bill.
Speaking of that, what do you think about the return to RFK?
I love that. I think that's great. Man, the old RFK was the best because the stadium
Well-
literally bounced.
Yeah, that wasn't the good thing. It was the stadium was falling apart. Randy sewage was falling
So
on people.
fun. Well, you had the Hogs.
And have you seen the renderings?
For the Jaguars? Oh, for
The
RFK? No.
RFKs,
No.
It would be, they're right now talking about a glass roof, and from one end zone down the pipe through a glass window,
Mhm.
the U.S. Capitol.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That's
It's-
it. That's
the renderings.
it looks
are,
nice.
As usual, the renderings are gorgeous.
Oh,
the renderings are always gorgeous.
And they would be, but a direct pipe shot right down to the U.S. Capitol
Wow.
would, in fairness, be an incredible stadium.
So
Yeah.
what would happen if you get like,
Randy
what, 71,500 people that could
Yeah.
just leave the stadium, be very angry, and just
It's very
walk to
far
the
away
Capitol?
From the US. It's very far away
What?
from the Capitol,
Okay.
but you still would get a straight shot.
Okay.
Oh my
It'd be,
god.
it'd be
Far
kind of like a
away.
tour. for a bunch of people.
Oh, okay, right. Now let's talk about our newsletter before we get into
Well,
some Bill Belichick.
I do want
talk.
you to know that, by the way, the new Jacksonville Stadium, 1.4 bill, but 1.4 billion that would be. And
Jeez.
but it has been approved by the Jacksonville government and the NFL owners.
Cronky Hater says, I don't look at stadium renderings. I am too broken.
I
I
get it.
know.
Guys,
The renderings
get it.
did look great.
I love St.
for
Louis,
what
but
it was.
if someone makes a rendering and the Mississippi River's in it, and there's people doing things inside on the Mississippi River, you got to call BS on the rendering. Person doing the rendering doesn't know what they're doing.
That's right.
Oh, man.
Hey, have you subscribed yet to our YouTube page? You know you're watching right now, so you might as well subscribe to the YouTube page, like this very video with Randy and Brooke and Matthew. And if you haven't already, go to sportshubstl.com and sign up for the new Hub newsletter. Sent to your inbox twice a week, and anytime St. Louis sports news breaks, you're going to be the first to know about Sports Hub STL events and merchandise, get exclusive content and prize opportunities, and more. And while you're on the site, check out all the St. Louis sports content, including game recaps, programming highlights, sports news and opinion, gambling tips, and more. It's all on the website at sportshubstl.com. And we are going to have a new partner here. I want to check the weather before
The weather, it's going to be warm today. I think in the 80s.
83 today, 74 tomorrow, but a
Jeez.
little bit of rain, and then 76 on Wednesday with a little bit of rain. It's going to rain all week, apparently, but that's why you want to go to the covered area of our friends at Fenton Bar and Grill. Brooke, they're joining us as a new teammate here at Sports Hub
Yay!
STL.
I missed them.
We have
the
missed them.
feisty redhead is joining us again.
So it'll be great to have them with us. And if you're heading out for lunch, if you want to try the best trash wings that you will ever have in the history of the world, go to the Fenton Bar and Grill, and it's great to have them teaming up with Sports Hub STL.
Yay! How exciting. The
It's gonna be
trash
fun.
wings,
Whew.
the feisty redhead, everything that you want
Yeah.
in a sports bar.
So, and all you gingers and, well, real gingers get together. Like this is,
I'm not considered a real ginger, but I'm a redhead.
but you are.
I'm not. Well, ginger is very pale skin and
Red tongue.
bright
she's a
red
day
hair.
walker.
Yeah.
No, she's a day walker.
What's a day walker?
You can't talk about ginger lore and not know the terminology that South Park coined.
Oh,
A day walker
yeah.
is somebody with red hair who's not super pale, doesn't have a bunch of freckles, and key point, still has their soul.
Oh, you see, I do have a soul. There we go.
Yes.
That's important.
It is.
That is very important.
Give me
Okay, so
give me
Brooke is
20, 25, I'm explaining
officially
day
a
walker.
redhead.
I am. I have been one my entire life. I didn't get called Chucky in middle school for nothing. It's just like, even if you're slightly redhead, and that's why I always hate when people would try to take away of like, oh, but you're not like a real redhead. No, I still had to go through the redhead stuff where if you're a redhead, you know, at some point in your life, you've been
Stolen
called
valor.
Chucky. No.
Stolen redhead valor.
No.
So I can tell you that I'm clearly colorblind.
Yes. Now it's time for overarching because we have something very important to get to. Very, very important. Bill Belichick. He is in love, or is he being held hostage?
Oh,
That's a big
Oh.
question. So Bill Belichick came out with a book and he did an interview with CBS this morning. And you would have thought that he didn't want to do this interview, even though he signed up to do an interview about his book. In his book, his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, who we've discussed before, who's 24 years old, he calls her his muse in his book. And his muse was right there by his side during this interview, acting completely normal. Let's check that out.
Jordan was a constant presence during our interview.
You have Jordan right over there. Everybody in the world seems to be following this relationship. They've got an opinion about your private life. It's got nothing to do with them, but they're invested in it. How do you deal with that?
Never been too worried about what everybody else thinks. Just try to do what I feel like is best for me and what's right.
How did you guys meet?
Not talking about this.
No?
No.
It's a topic neither one of them is comfortable commenting on.
Look at those eyes. Please just stay on this for 1 second. Look at those eyes. That's what we call crazy eyes. That is what we call crazy eyes. So let me get this straight. You sign up for this interview with CBS this morning. Nobody forced you to do this other than maybe Jordan. She's there for the entire interview. You call her your muse in her book, but then you won't discuss how you met Jordan and that you love this woman, right?
Mhm.
She's right by your side for every little thing, but you won't discuss how you met her. I thought they met on a plane, unless that's not the story anymore.
I thought she put it on social media. And she had the autograph. I think she had his autograph in the book
Yes.
that he was helping her with her homework on.
Randy, this is beyond strange at this point. It's creepy. It's strange. I don't understand what's going on. I feel like she caught him at a very vulnerable time in his life. Everything that happened with the Patriots and that separation. He was even asked about that during the interview where the reporter was pressing back on him of, you didn't even bring up Robert Kraft in your book when you're discussing your life. And he said, Robert Kraft said that this was, they let you go. And then Bill Belichick was like, well, it was a mutual parting of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just everything about this interview was so strange. Yes, look at the craziness.
If you go to people.com, they've got a photo of Jordan. We aren't talking about this. Those are crazy angry eyes. Ooh.
And apparently she was interrupting a lot during the interview. So what was the purpose of even doing this interview? What was the purpose of having her around if you weren't going to discuss your relationship with her? Because it seems like she's a big part of your life now.
Right.
If she's with you with every single interview, we see her out at practices. Apparently she has to be CC'd in emails. Is this elder abuse, Randy?
You bring it up. It's very interesting. She seems very controlling, right? And he seems to be controlled here.
Did you ever think that you would see Bill Belichick like this? This is a man who is well known for being strict and super controlling and what he did in his professional life and not a super serious guy. And now you look and watch him at this moment with this new girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, and it seems like he can't even think for himself anymore. Doesn't it seem like that?
Totally. Yeah. I think I never put it in that perspective before, but now that I think about it, yeah.
Plain story was pretty well publicized. Why are we not talking about it again?
That's what I don't understand. Is that not the true story of what happened here exactly? Because that makes it seem like I don't know if she's helping him with marketing and PR, right? Is that what she's doing behind the scenes? Wouldn't she know that this is a terrible look PR wise to look like he can't even think for himself or speak for himself? And that she's the one calling the shots? Or is that what she wants? Is that she's the one who's calling the shots and that she's able to control a man who is known for being able to, I mean,
he's a control freak.
A control freak. Yeah.
Yep.
I agree. This is odd. But there is something also odd that we got to talk about in the chat. And I think this might be even more weird. Randy, Michael Casper in the chat says, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I was a Rams fan at one time. But when Kroenke took the Rams from St. Louis, that same day I became a Cowboys fan.
Oh,
listen, there's a lot of things. You were emotionally stressed. It was a rough time. I get it. You were racked and you made a rash decision, but now we can talk to you in a much more stable light and tell you, get out.
Here's the thing. If you were upset about Kroenke moving the Rams,
how do you want to be a Cowboy fan?
Jerry Jones was the driving force
What the
behind
hell?
the Rams leaving St. Louis, whether it was constant conversations with Kroenke recommending that he move the team to LA, recognizing that there was only one owner in the NFL that could afford to build his own stadium because LA was not going to build a stadium for an NFL team out there, and ultimately calling for, and this was maybe the tipping point, the owners were going to vote for the Carson Project because they really appreciated the fact that Dean Spanos, the owner of the Chargers, had adhered to all of the relocation guidelines and rules. And they knew that Stan Kroenke hadn't. There was an appreciation for Dean Spanos in the room. However, the owners also knew that financially, because of Kroenke, they felt like they could make more with the new stadium in LA that he was going to build.
In a lot of ways, Michael going to Jerry Jones is very similar to this girl glomming on to Bill Belichick, because it's always going to be there. It's been there for the last 30 years. It's not leaving Dallas. They're not going to change the logo. So you're doing what she's doing. You're glomming on to something old because you like the consistent factor and because you want to feel special and you want to see some W's, and you haven't gotten that as a Rams fan.
Yeah,
so you're making
least,
the same decision she's making.
At least if you're a Cowboys fan, you are not jumping on a bandwagon. We know that. But so Jerry Jones asked for the private vote, and that's how that was the tipping point.
It's more like a broken wheelbarrow.
Don't be a Cowboys fan. Pick any other team. Other than maybe the
fine.
The Patriots. You can pick any other team.
Patriots now is fine. That means
honestly,
you're not
honestly, Cowboys and Chiefs are the only team you could pick if you were a Rams fan, that I will give you crap for. But I will give you a lot of crap for picking those two teams.
Because of the Chiefs, because of the bandwagon aspect of things?
The bandwagon aspect of Chiefs, but more so, you're St. Louisan. Don't lower yourself to rooting for anything Kansas City.
You obviously went to Mizzou.
Yeah,
I get it. I get it from Mizzou people.
We're getting to the what's going on here, the meat of it. But Ellipsis 150 says deep down she doesn't care about his PR image. She is using him for her own fame. I've seen this time and time again. Once the relationship is no longer beneficial for her, she will leave. Talking about Jordan Hudson.
Man, would she really?
I think she might, or I mean, he's just so much older than her.
Now.
I would assume that she's going to outlive him.
You'd think so.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just all of it is so strange the way that this has played out.
Do they get married? Take it or leave it. They get married.
Are they engaged?
I don't think so.
Do you see him leaving this relationship? I don't know. It's just
no. That's why
growing up watching the Patriots and that whole dynasty that everybody hated, seeing how Bill Belichick operated, I can't believe that we're seeing this version of him. It's the weirdest. It's the weirdest thing that I've ever seen.
We saw him. He came out of her house, right? Without.
Do we know if that was her house?
I believe it was. So maybe in addition to PR, she's really good at a lot of stuff.
Apparently, she only dates old men, so this is not anything new for her.
I'm going to say that they do get married.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does he do a prenup? I feel like at this point there won't even be a prenup.
That's the big question. There has to be a prenup. He has so much money from before he met her.
Bill
have to do a prenup.
Bill fell into the honey trap. It happens. The only person who can save Bill is Tom Brady. I don't think Tom Brady wants anything to do with Bill Belichick. It seems like.
That's from Cole Bassett's left foot. Thank you, Cole. Appreciate that. KC owner helped the Rams relocated because they wanted the STL market, and you dummies slide right into their trap. How I would like to know if you could tell me, John Red, how the Chiefs have profited from the St. Louis market. I have some facts on this. If you'd like to give me your facts, I will gladly give you mine.
Can you please explain that too? Because I feel like that's something that always comes up when people use. Okay, I actually understand Rockio's feelings about he's not going to root for anything Kansas City. I get that aspect. I can side with that more than that statement because you were there for all that stuff behind the scenes. You knew which owners were really involved. Jerry Jones had a huge hand in helping Kroenke move the Rams out of the St. Louis. Yes. So if you could explain that.
Yeah. Number one, let's go back to 1960. Wellington Mara, the Giants owner, agreed to share his national TV revenue with the other teams. He could have said, "No, I'm in New York. I'm going to take my TV money and I'm going to spend it that way." When Wellington Mara, the owner of the Giants, agreed to share his national TV revenue, it changed the league and it fostered what is called league think. And in general, throughout the course of the league since 1960, owners have pretty much voted together as a block. If the majority agreed, then everybody kind of fell into line and they said, you know what, we want to have a united front. Whether or not we are is one thing, but we want to present ourselves as having a united front. Now, Al Davis would abstain from a lot of votes because he didn't like Pete Rozelle and didn't really want to be part of league think. So Lamar Hunt, Clark Hunt, they fall into the league think aspect of things. We get to January 12th of 2016, the day of the vote, morning of the vote, is the relocation committee meeting. Jerry Richardson, owner of the Panthers, Robert Kraft, owner of the Patriots, John Mara, in charge of the Giants, Bob McNair, owner of the Houston Texans, Art Rooney Jr., owner of the Steelers, and of course Clark Hunt. So you've got 6 people. And the vote goes 5-1 in favor of the Carson Project. The one dissenting vote, Clark Hunt, who said before, during, and after that he didn't think that Los Angeles could support one team, perhaps, certainly not 2. And he's proven to be right. He said, if we're going to make a business decision here, I only want one team in Los Angeles because I don't think LA is as good a market as you guys believe it might be. Speaking of Jerry Jones and people like that. So that's why he voted against it. Now, when it came to the vote of 32, and the vote was 30-2, and the only votes against going to the Kroenke going to Inglewood were Michael Bidwill, obviously, and because he was attacked by Jerry Jones in the meeting, and Jerry Richardson, who had told the league, hey, you're going to regret leaving St. Louis. So it was the Panthers and the Cardinals that voted against in 32. Clark Hunt voted with the 30 because he was going league think. So there's how the vote came about. Now move forward. The NFL said nobody is allowed to take the St. Louis market. You can't grab the St. Louis market. During that time, of course, Patrick Mahomes gets drafted. The Chiefs turn into Super Bowl contenders. They're fun. They score a lot. Andy Reid's a great guy. They're 3 hours away. So a lot of fans jump on that Chiefs bandwagon. And oh, by the way, when the Rams were not here during the early 90s, before the Rams got here, after the Cardinals had left, the Chiefs had acquired a quarterback by the name of Joe Montana, who was pretty good. And a lot of St. Louisans bought tickets at that time. As a matter of fact, when the Cardinals left, the Chiefs were allowed to come into town and pursue the market. They came in. The former Cardinal Theodis Brown came to town to try to sell season tickets to St. Louisans. But subsequent to the Rams moving, there was no set one team that could come in and take over the market. So right now, as a matter of fact, well, you have the Chiefs, I believe, on Channel 4. The Packers games are on Channel 2 during the preseason. The Chiefs, because they're good, are on KMOX radio, but another team could come on. If, as a matter of fact, I was asked by Michael Bidwill if we could get the Cardinals on 101 ESPN. 101 ESPN decided to do national games rather than take the Cardinals' rights. But if the Cardinals wanted to come in here, have their games on the radio, if they could find a taker, they could. Same with the Bears. The Bears were on TV here for a while. But the Chiefs are not being shoved down your throat in St. Louis. The Chiefs are really, really good. And so every city in America is being inundated with Chiefs coverage.
Yeah.
Out of the Chiefs' 17 games in 2024, 14 of them were either in the 3:25 national window, were in prime time, or there was one national morning game.
And it has nothing to do with Taylor Swift makes it exciting, but I also hate that narrative
but
too.
that was
of like
happening
Taylor
well
Swift.
before Taylor Swift.
No,
was part of the
Patrick
picture.
Mahomes
Yeah.
is an exciting quarterback. Think about when you were younger. There was quarterbacks, like I know for a lot of people, especially in my age group, and Rocco, you're probably like this too. Brett Favre was an exciting quarterback to watch. You had a lot of people who gravitated towards certain quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes is an exciting quarterback to watch, and that also has gained more fans.
No doubt about it. And by the way, Brooke, when the Greatest Show on Turf was rolling, the St. Louis Rams were being shoved down everybody's throat.
Yes.
All of our games were the 3:25 window or prime time because it was the most fun team to watch. So that's where the Chiefs are right now. So if the Chiefs have been able to take over the St. Louis market, it's not because they've come in and tried to sell tickets or sell all of their stuff at Rally House. They didn't even have to try. All they had to do was win.
I've met a lot of Chiefs fans here in town.
Well, it's easy
a
to be
lot
a Chiefs.
of
Andy Reid is exceptionally likable. Mahomes,
some
to
are
me,
and some are
right?
newer, but some said that it was even before like all of
There's
that.
people that never really glommed onto the Rams because of what I said before. When Marty Schottenheimer had the Chiefs going and they had Montana and the Rams weren't here, Schottenheimer shows up in '89 and they're a perennial contender. There's a lot of people that remained Chiefs fans and never really became fans of the St. Louis Rams.
Yeah, so I don't blame them. John Red says, I'm happy to be proven wrong. Randy remembers. I had read at the time he wanted the market, but you would have better knowledge since you were there behind the scenes.
Yeah, thank you.
That was very nice, John. I feel like that's so rare nowadays where people actually will hear the other side of an opinion about
and
stuff.
Believe me, I think if the Chiefs could have exclusivity in the St. Louis market, anytime you can make money, that'd be great. But
the NFL wanting to make money? No.
But I don't. You walk into a rally house, right? And you see the clearly the Chiefs are the team of choice here in St. Louis. And maybe it's because they're in Missouri. From my front door, it's easier for me and closer for me to go by a half hour to get to Lucas Oil Stadium than Arrowhead Stadium.
Also, my thing is if Pat Mahomes was the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, Rally House would look unfortunately silver and blue.
Yeah, it would. You're exactly right.
I really truly believe
no doubt about it. I agree 100%
with
that. And same thing with Green Bay, right? The Packers are a national brand. The Steelers are a national brand. Yeah, there are a lot of teams. Not a lot. There's 3 teams that have the national brand. It's the Packers, Steelers, and Cowboys. But for example, to your point, if we go back 20 years, Peyton Manning, right? If we didn't have a team and the Colts were as good as they were, then I think we'd see a lot of Peyton Manning stuff. So anyway, that's my little take on it.
Yeah, little take on it.
Could the NFL come back to St. Louis, or is it just a lost cause? Michael Casper, thank you very much. Now that we have a new mayor in Kara Spencer, I think, didn't she say something like
NBA.
What?
NBA. I thought it was NBA that she was
I
trying
thought
to push
anything
for.
is possible now.
Anything is possible.
I mean,
is that her
everything's
campaign
going so
slogan?
well in the city of St. Louis.
Is that her campaign? Anything is possible.
Anything's possible.
Okay, I like that. So NBA and NFL is what Randy
let's do
Karraker
it.
say.
Yeah, it's my prediction.
You heard it here
What year are we?
first.
2025. So this would be like 30-25, but still, anything's possible.
Oh, come on. If anything's possible, then why not next year, Randy?
Okay. Yes. We got something going on.
Yes, Joe?
Joe Roderick. Breaking news bulletin. Apparently official. What do we got?
No, Justin Boyd, the head of HotShots,
Uh-huh.
he got back with me about the taco eating contest on June 1st.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
This is
So what did Rock say? He said 12 minutes. He said he could eat at
28.
least 28.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's what he said. Jay Boyd says exactly 0 chance of that happening. He said he saw some dude try to eat 20 a couple weeks ago and tapped out at 17, and they were big beer drinking guys too. He said he thinks something like that would be a 15 tacos in 15 minutes kind of a challenge.
So are we doing
Okay.
a 15-minute? Is that our
Yeah.
time limit? 15? Okay.
He said that he thinks we can make this happen. So details to come, but it does
Ooh.
look like we can do a taco eating contest on June 1st.
All right.
But Rock's ideas of 28 tacos in 12 minutes apparently
Aw.
has
It's
not.
a
Because I
pipe
said the same
dream.
thing, but I was doing the math. I was thinking, okay, 4 a minute for the first 3 minutes.
God, you
So
were
that could
really
be up to
big.
12.
Yeah, I maybe 3. I
And
was thinking
then-
I was thinking 3 a minute for the first 3 minutes, and then I would start tapering off. But yeah, 28 was listen, the amount of times in my life that my eyes have been too big for my stomach
Mm,
is literally incalculable.
mm.
So yeah,
That's
I
all
was wrong. 28 is probably too big. I'm probably
It's okay
being
to have
I'm
big
probably being
dreams.
Yeah.
foolish.
I have big dreams.
No.
I guess the question
Yeah,
is
big
then
dreams. Anything's possible.
Yep.
here's the question then.
In St.
I
Louis.
think Jay Boyd actually has set out what it is.
15 minutes.
Can one of us
1 a minute.
go? Yeah, can one of us go 15 minutes at more of a taco per minute rate?
I'm going
That's
to
the
work
question.
out.
Yeah.
I'm going to prepare and I'm going to work out.
I think
I'm going to
I
spend
can.
May.
I love
Working.
I love a rate stat, Randy. So for me, it's 1 taco per minute.
Okay.
That's the question now. And
I think that's
and-
easy.
I just
That's-
have to do one more than
Brooke.
you.
I think that's easy.
All right, Brooke.
Well, you know
hey,
what are the things I'm going to work out with? Because you can't just do taco after taco after taco.
You have to prepare for every situation.
Sometimes you have to do like the Lee's famous recipe, chicken Battlehawks
Yes.
box with the chicken breast strips. By the way, Joe Roderick, am I doing Battlehawks this week? Friday night.
Are you?
I am. Yeah. How about that?
Wow.
Okay. Oh, I like this. Okay. Good.
Okay, nice.
So
we say Jack in the Box, but they are big. They're
bigger.
more like they're. I would say that they're probably closer to
But
like
these
the
are
monster
Hot
taco.
Shots. If we just go to Hot Shots, we can do it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying
Yes.
I'm trying to give people the visual.
The visual. Yeah. I'm ready.
We're
I'm ready
we're-
right now.
We're all 3 confident we can do more than a taco per minute for 15 minutes.
Yeah. So,
right.
no doubt. Battlehawks fans, be sure to catch Battlehawks Hub Weekly, now available on the Sports Hub STL YouTube page with normally Luke Slaybaugh and Judy Strotter. This coming week, though, it's going to be Randy Karraker and Judy Strotter as we get you set for the next Battlehawks contest. Battlehawks with a big win over the Michigan Panthers. We made the Panthers so mad that they tried to slap our fans. Battlehawks coverage on Sports Hub STL presented by
Yikes.
Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken with the new Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken Battlehawks box. You can score up to 30% off Battlehawks tickets, plus get 4 of their famous breast strips and a side of potato wedges for just $8.99 only at Lee's Famous for Chicken. And I'm looking forward to doing that show on Friday night with Judy. That'll be a
Was
good
it
time.
Puka Nakua's brother who
Yes,
slapped a
Samson
fan? So
Nakua.
if you guys haven't seen that video, his brother slapped a Battlehawks fan. Now, here's the thing I hope that whatever the fan said that elicited that response, which of course violence is never the answer, I hope the fan did not say anything Really bad. Like,
Yeah.
did you see what happened
Well,
with Jaron
but
Duran this weekend?
I did, yeah.
That
Player
that person needs to be banned because
No
that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
If you didn't see Jaron Duran, he got very upset with the fan. The fan, I believe, got kicked out because the people around him were saying that he told him to go kill himself.
Which
and as
he
you know, Jaron
can't
Duran
go
has been
do,
very
yeah.
public about his mental health battles. I hope it's not like a situation like that.
Yeah. Well, the teammate though kept standing there and was laughing at the fan. So I don't. That doesn't seem like a laughing matter when Samson Nakua jumped up and slapped the Battlehawks
Yeah,
fan.
it was a quick little slap too.
Like you could hear it.
Yeah,
It was big time.
a
Slap.
little slap. Have you ever been
Yeah.
slapped?
I have. But
Really?
it didn't- but it didn't hurt. You know,
What happened?
I
Are you
don't
allowed
even
to share
remember,
this story legally?
I don't actually. I just remember getting slapped. I don't remember the details of the story. I still feel it though.
Oh, I'm sorry.
How about you?
No.
That's good.
Yeah.
So, and when you get slapped by a UFL player, well, it's extra special.
Oh man.
Hey, Sports Hub STL is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. So our thanks to Jeremy Rutherford. You can always watch this show again and again and again on YouTube. If you never get tired of us, we thank you for that because the more you watch, the better it is for us.
Yeah.
And we thank you
And
for.
we won't slap you.
No, we love you. Matthew, anything that you want to close out with? Do we have we have a pregame Cardinal Cards Hub?
Cards Up 365 at 1 p.m. I believe the schedule is set for Claibs and Brennan to go
Love it.
this afternoon.
Is Claibs here or is he in Cincy?
I believe he probably, to his great chagrin, is in Cincinnati.
Okay. Yeah, probably. All right.
Yeah, Claibs and Brennan today at 1 p.m. And then we have I'm not going to call them the joke I want to say. Sarah Daly and Stephen Carey are doing a post game tonight together. So a little old Cardinal, young Cardinal kind of thing going there with the Dailies and the Careys getting together for post game on Sports Hub STL.
All right. Brooke, did you have fun today?
Yes.
Good. Hope you had a fun Monday. Matthew, great work as always. Thank you. That's our producer, audio, video engineer, the one, the only Matthew Rocchio. I'm Randy Karraker. Thanks for being with us on Sports Hub STL. We will see you tomorrow morning at 10:02.